internet. Gotcha mid-swig, so you just...
I was waiting for the internet to say hello back.
Oh, yeah, it never does.
Rude.
Each episode, I say hi, and it never says hi back because it's like some rude prick or something.
Yeah.
If you recognize that voice from the 2 words, that's the return of Adrian Mack. And I was going to sing that song by Mark Morrison, The Return of the Mack. But with the racial tensions the way they are right now, I don't know if I'm allowed to sing that song live on my Facebook post.
No, you might be accused of appropriation.
Episode. Yeah, also, I think my voice is so good, and I would hit the notes so correctly that later, when we upload this to YouTube, we'd get a copyright infringement because they'd be like, that is Mark Morrison. So I don't know why he's putting this in his podcast.
But the Outrage Factory has a slush fund for that kind of eventuality, does it not?
I think the Outrage Factory fund is enough to maybe get 1 slush. See what I did there?
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
Very, very clever.
I turned it into a pun because that's what I do.
Yes, you do. Now, you were saying that you've never joined a band.
No, I've never been in a band.
You're not musical.
No, see, there's like I tried to learn bass. I even had my bass, and I learned how to play Son of a Gun by Nirvana, and that's the extent of my musical ability went. And I had the opportunity to join 2 bands. Like I went to this one band when I lived in Edmonton. I answered like an open call for bassists, and they're like, "We're looking for someone to play," and I was like, "Oh yeah, what are your influences?" And I was like, "I can basically play rudimentary Nirvana, which is the easiest thing to play." And they're like, "Well, we like Big Wreck," and I was like, "That's such a random band to be really into."
Yeah, nobody liked Big Wreck, did they?
I mean, there was that one song when he was falling down the stairs, and he had that kind of novelty, cool voice. But
was that the Oath?
Yeah,
the Oath. The Oath. Yeah.
Was that song Oath, or was the album The Oath?
I don't know. Yeah, I wrote a bio for that fellow. What was his name? Thornley, something Thornley. Very nice man.
When we were at the Nerve or some other time?
I think we were at the Nerve at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know how many copies he sold of that record, but anyway, a nice enough guy. I mean, you know.
Yeah. So, and then I tried to be in another band like before that with my friends, and they're like, "Yeah, you suck at instruments." I was like, "I know, I told you before you insisted I try." And they're like, "Yeah." And then I was just like, you know what? I'll just try to be funny instead because I'm really good at that and not being in a band.
In spite of all this, you were prepared to sing Mark Morrison's timeless hit, Return of the Mack.
Return of the Mack. See, it sounds exactly like it.
Oh, that was really good.
Actually, I looked up the video, and it was funny because he has like a weird high voice where he pronunciates his words a lot. And I was like, that's hilarious. I don't remember it sounding like this.
Is pronunciate a word?
It should be.
Yeah. Yeah. In any case, I can say
Wait, what is it? Enunciate?
I think it's enunciate.
What did I say? Pronunciate?
You said pronunciate.
Yeah, that's not a word.
Yeah, that's okay.
Wow.
You know, as nothing matters anymore. We're
all gonna die.
We can make up language. No, yeah. Language evolves.
Hey, all I got to say is vomit didn't exist before Shakespeare invented it, the word. So maybe one of these words will someday be as strong as vomit.
I didn't know that. Is that true?
That is very true.
Oddly enough.
Unless the internet lied to me.
No, I can't imagine that would ever happen. But I was talking to some friends just before you got in touch to do this. And we were discussing that fellow down in somewhere in the southern states who rewrote the lyrics to The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down because he was asked to perform that song, and I think it was a tribute concert to The Last Waltz, you know, the band thing. Do you know what I'm talking about, or are you just
no? None of this is landing with me. I'm sorry, I don't know who this fellow is. I don't even know what song that is. I don't know what The Last Waltz is.
I think you're lying.
It sounds vaguely familiar.
I think you're lying.
Explain it to me like, just, okay, I know what everything is, but just in case our listeners don't know what it is, explain it just like I've never heard of it.
Well, way, way, way back in the, I don't know, I have fucking thousands of years ago when a bunch of young Canadians went down to the United States, drunk on the music of the people down there, and more or less invented a genre of music that is now called Americana.
Wait, are you saying Americana was invented by Canadians?
I'm actually saying that. Well, it was appropriated by Canadians.
Wait.
And anyway, they had a big hit with this song called "The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down." It was sung by the one American in the band, a fellow by the name of Levon Helm. I think you probably knew that too. He was from Arkansas. It's a fantastic song. It's a song that is dripping with compassion and humanity and mercy, although it is sung from the point of view of a Confederate soldier. So this is problematic in 2020 if you're a young, I think he's maybe Texan, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Who cares? But this young musician who's prominent enough anyway that Rolling Stone would do a story about this, if Rolling Stone matters. Do I need to explain Rolling Stone?
No, I'm not that old. I know what Rolling Stone is.
So he said it was actually, I appreciated his sincerity. He said, I grew up in the South where racism is systemic, and I'm taking a stand. I was asked to perform this song, and he changed the lyrics to reflect his point of view,
his misgivings.
Yeah, I guess. So my friends and I were discussing whether that's a legitimate thing to do or not. I think ultimately it doesn't matter, although, the song's author, who was Mohawk, he might have something to say about it. In any case, it reminded me of when I was a kid, like in the 80s, and there was a big brouhaha in my school about Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice.
Which school is this?
Well, it was Matthew Humberston Comprehensive in the north of England, in Cleethorpes.
Oh, the north of England!
Yeah.
Is that how you talked when you were a kid?
I don't know.
Sorry, did I derail your story?
No, I don't think so.
Did you wear the short pants with the long socks?
No, but we did have to wear a school uniform. But it was a what would you call it here? It was a public. Here it would be a public school. It was a shit school. It was a shit school for working class folk. But it wasn't so shit that we didn't learn Shakespeare.
Yeah.
But there was this terrible flap at the time because the Merchant of Venice was seen to be perhaps anti-Semitic.
Oh.
And I think it's a worthwhile discussion, except there wasn't some fucking jackass trying to rewrite it back then.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would argue that The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down is not really problematic, and that it is okay to write from the context of,
that's where you get into this whole thing where it's like you can't, some history is problematic, and you don't want to glorify, say, a Confederate soldier, but you should, those were still people. They were still fighting, and they still had opinions and emotions. So you can say kind of what they went through, even though they were the bad guys and they ultimately lost.
You have to have compassion, empathy, and mercy for everybody. Otherwise, we're lost as a culture, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
And as much as I understand the impulse to pull down a statue, I think it's probably would be wiser to instead, perhaps, I'm quoting a friend now. He said this just before we got on this thing, this interphone, and he's like, "How about you erect a plaque saying, hey, this guy was a piece of shit, and here's why."
Yeah.
Erasing history. I'm repeating what others have said, but I don't disagree with it. Erasing history is what theocracies do. It's what totalitarian cultures do. It's what the Khmer Rouge did. It's what the Taliban did. And do we want to do that? I don't think so. But but equally, I understand the impulse, and let's just say these are very complex times.
Yeah. So with the statues, what I think they should do is maybe not tear down all of them, but all the ones that were hastily put up in the 60s to kind of just as a poke in the eye of the civil rights movement, just get rid of all those because they're shitty and made fast and put up around the southern U.S.
Which ones are you talking about? I don't know about these ones.
I don't know exactly which ones, but there are some of these Confederate statues in the States that were put up in the 60s. It's not all, all these statues weren't put up like right after the Civil War to commemorate it. Like some of them were put up basically by white dickheads so that they could somehow hold on to their culture that they felt they were going to lose with the civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
And all those that you could freely take them down. I don't really care.
You're okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
I got nothing to say on that, but I will say this. If you are, well, before we started going live,
yeah,
I said these words to you. I said, you know what? We were reminiscing, weren't we? We were reminiscing about the first time I came on the show and got yelled at by all your fucking listeners.
Hey, that was that one friend. I'm not going to defend her because I don't think she actually watches the podcast anymore, so she's dead to me. But like I told you before, I felt like it was a bit too angry to be. Oh fuck! I said it so perfectly when the camera wasn't on.
Yeah,
I said it sounded.
You were fucking brilliant before the camera came on.
It sounded a little too angry and cutting to be genuine. So that's what I thought.
Well, do you think that she had like some personal animus towards me because I fucking hurt her friend or something? Did I do something?
I don't think.
I don't care.
I don't think your guys' orbits have crossed. Well, I mean, but you did live in Vancouver, and she lives in Vancouver
and I hurt a lot of people in Vancouver. That should. Let's clear the air right now. I did a lot.
You're
of
like a teddy bear. All you did was hug love into people.
Yeah, I did.
I will not hear otherwise.
Before we got on the fucking Faceborg or whatever it is,
Faceborg.
We were reminiscing about my first appearance on your show. And it was upon the advent of the protests down in the States.
Yeah, that seems like
after the murder of George Floyd. It seems like a million years ago, but they're going on, you know.
Mm-hmm. And I can't believe they're still like. I could believe they're still protesting. I've never been against that, but I can't believe they're still like want to burn down buildings and smash windows. It's like I thought.
I would stop you right there and I would ask you.
Yes.
Are they really burning down buildings? Where are you getting your information from? If they are burning down buildings, are they perhaps being provocateured into that kind of action? Because in general, I find that these sorts of these negative aspects that tend to assert themselves during any public protest,
that's a very good point.
99.9% of the time are started by the other fucking side.
Yeah, and they did say that once the federal agents that were in Portland left, that it did calm down a lot.
I'm sure it did. Yeah. I've been, this is a great time for me personally because, I've sort of been vindicated in so many ways. My friends have been calling me names for fucking decades, and yet here we are in 2020, and here's an estimation of the situation in 2020. It turns out that the world really is run by an elite cabal of pedophiles.
Dude, isn't that crazy? Like everybody, sorry.
That's real. Now we know that's real. The Homeland Security is literally disappearing American citizens off the streets in Portland, Chicago, and elsewhere. And the Pentagon would like to talk to you about UFOs. My fucking world has come to pass, and you all made fun of me.
See, but the thing is, this is the worst feeling, the worst I told you so ever. Because
I know. Oh, I'm not happy about it.
You've been talking about this stuff. You're like, oh, there's a ring of pedophiles. And everybody's like, no, there isn't. And you're like, one day you're going to find out. And they found out. And now you can't even be the asshole who's like, I told you so, because they're like, really? You're bragging?
I know, because then it's about me.
Yeah. And it's such a dark, shitty thing to talk about, being like, I knew there was this secret ring of pedophiles. Oh,
that's why I'm mostly sticking to the UFO angle now.
Segue here. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is the DNC convention announced who they're going to have as speakers, and they're going to let Bill Clinton speak. It's like they're so fucking dumb. Like first they're like, oh, we got to beat Trump, so they give you Hillary, and you're like, what? And then Hillary fucks around, and the DNC is corrupt, and they fuck over Bernie Sanders, and then the leader of the DNC actually announces why she feels bad or whatever for doing that, steps down, and then Hillary hires her as her campaign manager, which was a huge mistake because her campaign was trashed. And basically the DNC lost that election and Trump didn't win it. And then next time they're like, oh, we got another great candidate to beat down Trump, and that's Joe Biden. And you're like, really? That guy who's been sniffing hair and like has sexual abuse claims against him, DNC?
Let's stop being around the bush. He's a full-on predator.
Yeah.
He just is. But one of the amusing things about the shit lib world is that, you know, one kind of rapist is, you know, terrible and needs to be removed from office, but the other kind of rapist apparently is okay. So my contempt for the DNC is endless.
Yeah, like,
and
they should publicly apologize.
Horror at, sorry?
I was just going to say they should publicly apologize for giving Trump 2 presidencies.
I think you're right. I mean, I think he's we're looking at a second term, and it's going to be way worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be way worse. But let's not forget that, you know, Trump's, I refer to it here as Trump's legislative agenda. It's not his. No president really makes these decisions. But the Trump administration's entire legislative agenda, especially in areas where it's particularly egregious and harmful to the working class, the entire thing has been fucking rubber stamped by the Democrats. Everything, every fucking tax break for the rich, every huge gift to the military, everything. And whenever that administration does step out of line, for instance, when it wants to remove troops from Afghanistan, suddenly you're going to get all these bullshit stories about how, you know, the Russians are putting bounties on the heads of American soldiers, and Donald Trump doesn't care.
Yeah.
You know, it's a fucking hopeless situation. And so, you know, as I think I said to you last time, I'm eager for the entire collapse of everything, because I don't think there are actual political solutions for the crises that we're facing. Obviously, that's, you know, in America, that's abundantly clear. And then I think in Canada, it will become clear. I mean, any all Western democracies are.
Wait, what's wrong with Trudeau?
Oh, no, he's great.
Well,
I was just listening to a great podcast the other day. I listen, you know, it's Chapo Trap House.
Whoa! You don't listen to other podcasts besides this one?
Sometimes I listen to my own, not often.
Okay, that's the only one you're allowed to listen to, besides my podcast, our podcast.
All right.
Derek's
I listen to movie podcasts because here's the truth, Dale. I don't actually want to be part of the dialogue anymore. I find it far too stressful. I used to make my living, you know, proffering opinions in public, and I might do that again, but I'll be honest with you, it's so fraught, and you know, I've been laid off for a little while, so I've had some time to think about what I do.
Yeah.
And
so you don't want to start a occluded history podcast with me, like as a side gig?
An occluded history podcast?
Yeah. Remember last time you're on, I called it conspiracy theory, and you got mad and basically slapped my dick and told me that I should call it occluded history.
I actually don't remember that, but that's fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Sorry, I totally just shut. Oh, what I was gonna say is go ahead. One good way to get out of having to do commentary on politics and stuff is be like me and somehow never be able to grasp what's going on or learn it. And even if I do learn it, I always just forget it. I think it's like some subconscious self-defense mechanism where politics are either so evil and gross or exceptionally boring that my brain's like, we're not remembering this. We got like video games and, like you said, movies and stuff to think about. Right. So politics, just leave that for like the greedy, smart people.
You know, I recall hearing Norm Macdonald talking about Bill Maher.
Yeah.
And saying, you know, the problem with Bill Maher is that he wants to be the smartest guy in the room, and good comedy is the opposite of that. You play the dumb guy.
Yeah.
And you know, all my favorite comedians
play the dumb guy.
You play the dumb guy. I mean, you know, Norm Macdonald consistently, for instance, plays the dumb guy, but he's way smarter than you or I. And and that's where Bill Maher, who's not a smart guy, That's where he fails
Mm.
consistently and for decades on end, and yet very, very highly paid. It's worth pointing out that, Bill Maher deigned to go on the Joe Rogan podcast. And
I listened to that episode because I listened to every episode of the Joe Rogan podcast because I'm a giant Joe Rogan honk.
Are you?
Yes.
Okay.
I think he's the most important man right now.
The most important man
besides Elon
world?
Musk. Yeah. Well, in media. Let's say in media, because he's presenting scientists and learned minds to the people who otherwise wouldn't have access to those. Like he's taking, for lack of a better term, he's taking like frat boy jocks and he's introducing them to people like Johan Johari and sleep doctors and nutritionists, and he's basically giving them a chance to somehow like create their lives or increase their make their lives better and focus on their health. Whereas everybody else who has a podcast that has someone like Johari come on is some sort of just like pretentious douchebag who looks down on Joe Rogan's audience and would never give them access to a guest who's actually going to like cause them to emotionally evolve.
I 100% agree. I have lots of issues with Joe Rogan. I often have issues. I don't listen to everything, but he strikes me as a meathead with a very open mind. And I prefer
what he calls himself.
Does he really?
Yeah, he's like, I'm a meathead, I'm a cage commentator, and I'm a stand-up comedian. I don't know much, but I like talking to people who do.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I will always have issues with him, and just like I will always have issues with everybody, and I think that's okay. But he really impressed me recently. He did a 3-hour interview with a fellow called Tom O'Neill, who wrote the book Chaos, which was sort of revisionist.
That episode was great.
That's the wrong word to use. A more enlightened take on the Manson murders. And he really proved his mettle with that episode. He knew what he was talking about, and he was curious. And that's something that I just happen to take personally because I've had a personal interest for a long time, and to see that kind of occluded history make its way into what's considered the mainstream now is really heartening to me.
Yeah, see, the thing about Joe Rogan is he's always been into occluded history, and he's always presented subjects like that. He never had someone as robust as Tom O'Neill on, but he's had that fighter pilot who saw the Tic Tac UFO, and then he even had Bob Lazar on, which was a great podcast too.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Bob Lazar is an interesting character. I appreciate what he does. But let's wind way back here.
Okay, let's stop me gushing about Joe Rogan because Derek's gonna have a fucking aneurysm once.
I got one more thing to say about Joe Rogan. I got to get it off my chest because it's been fucking haunting me for months, if not years now. But whenever I try in my head to remember to imagine Joe Rogan in news radio, I see Tony Danza. I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to make you laugh. That's actually what happens. And it's a struggle. I have to go back. I went back and looked at old episodes. So I was like, no, he looks like that.
Yeah.
Not like that.
Well, the thing is, his character in news radio was very Tony Danza-esque. He was always like, hey, yo.
Yeah, he was the Italian American with the broken nose, and he was a boxer. I remember there's an episode where I think he boxed Andy Dick, and Andy Dick won. And that was like the big fucking twist in the episode.
It was the prize for winning the fight was Andy Dick got to make out with him.
I don't think it was, but
because if Andy Dick made the rules, that would have been one of them.
Well, yes, in real life, had that fight taken place, that would have been the prize. Yes. But however, we were talking just before the internet came on.
Yeah.
about our first podcast together when that lady yelled at me, and the Black Lives Matter movement was like fucking starting to gear up.
Yeah.
And well, we were reminiscing about that, weren't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were talking because
and you said, what's your take, Adrian? And I said, my take is this, Dale. I said, fucking bees.
That's a weird take, but go ahead. Fucking bees.
You know, it's even funnier because it wasn't a bee, it was a wasp.
Oh, shite.
I said, I think I'm really excited still about what's happening down there. I think it's necessary. I think it's great. I think it's going to go horribly wrong probably in the long run, but that's all part of the great unraveling.
Yeah.
But however, Black Lives Matter. I believe Black Lives Matter. But orgies of white guilt on Twitter don't.
I love that.
They don't fucking matter at all.
Orgies of white guilt. Out. I love that saying because that's basically what it is. Like, yeah, black people shouldn't be killed by the police, but I don't need to hear from like any more white people about how they feel bad for what happened in the past. Just change it and you won't have to feel bad. Like, make an effort to not, going forward, to not, I can't think of the word, but like, just don't do racism anymore. And then it'll get better. Basically, think of some smart way to say, don't do racism anymore.
No, I wish that was actually the slogan. Just don't do racism anymore.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter. Don't do racism anymore.
Yeah.
I know. I understand and appreciate the impulse. Mm-hmm. However, when people's Twitter avatars started changing so that it was a picture of them with their black friend, then I think we're in some, pretty fucking not healthy territory.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like when it became like a fetishism of their approval of black culture, then it was just like, all right, guys.
Fetishism is a fantastic word for, I think, what we're seeing.
Yeah.
That is not to diminish the importance of the whole thing or the necessity.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
pronunciate.
Yeah. Hey, that's my job, is to not be able to do words on this podcast, buddy. I'm the guy who's pretending to be the dumb guy for comedic effect.
Right. And I'm pretending to be the smart one.
Yeah, to be the unfunny smart guy. We talked about this at length.
Yeah.
What I was going to say
our listeners don't know is that we are actually working off a script.
Yeah. What I was going to say was, like, I'm all for, like, police in this, like, police in the, I say police in the States specifically because the police up here are different, and they've
really already, the RCMP is any different. I think the RCMP is essentially a militia that beats on indigenous people.
Yes, but they've had more programs enacted where they have to go through like cultural sensitivity training and such, whereas in the States they don't necessarily. But for me, I'm against police defunding. I want them to put like way more money in so that you can afford to hire people who are better cops, like better people, because people who are smart and good and talented go where the money is. And being a police officer doesn't pay that much. Plus you're in harm's way, so you're not going to take that job. But if it paid more people would be willing to do it. And then if you also paid more into the police system, they could get more training and more mental health support. And like, basically you have all these people who are traumatized with guns on their hip.
When you say more mental health support, who are the mental health supporters that are doing that work?
Well, like, more
are they cops
and stuff, or the police officers?
Right.
Like, I'm not talking about taking roles away from the police and giving them to social workers, because there are programs where what they should do is have, like, pair up a police officer with a social support worker, and then they can go to domestic disputes and stuff, because you can't just send a social support worker to a domestic dispute, because those are usually, like, I guess statistically, those are one of the highest jumps in violence, because when you get there, the people are all wound up and they're like fighting, so they're all angry. And then if you just bash on the door, they're going to like be super angry.
Well, certainly in my personal experience, that's true. However, it was a really, really off-color joke. I'm really not sure what to say to that. That would be another 4-hour-long discussion.
Oh yeah.
If the slogan is defund the cops,
yeah,
I can get behind that. And if that means, reallocating those resources into social programs that actually are going to help nip these problems in the bud, rather than deal with them when they explode into hopeless violence, then defund the police. But having said that, didn't we have a list of fucking things that we're supposed to talk about?
Yeah, we do have a list of things. Hey, we don't call it like the other name.
You're going off script.
Tangent Factory for a reason, because that's all we do.
Yeah.
So, was there something from the list specifically you wanted to talk about? No,
not at all. I like the DNC thing, just so I can say once again that I have nothing but contempt for the DNC and nothing but contempt for the it's a cheap slur, but I'll use it, for the shit libs who are telling you to vote for Biden no matter what.
Hey,
because the only thing that matters is removing Trump. I 100% disagree with that. I think I think a vote for Biden is a way of surrendering the tiny little power that you have these days. The DNC will never improve if you keep doing that, and in any case, it's not going to work. There's going to be a second fucking term of Trump. If they had run Sanders instead of cheating him out of the nomination, then I think they would have had a chance. Speaking of, I noticed again on the Twitter that, well, just in the media in general, everybody's very, very upset about Trump and voter fraud. And yet nobody said a fucking thing about Pete Buttigieg and Iowa.
Yeah,
and the clear election fraud that was, I think, the first real salvo in the DNC's attempt to destroy Sanders again. Yeah, no one's talking about that. You know,
one thing I think DNC has, it's almost like they're like, look, Biden was a predator, pedophile, but now he's so full of dementia that he probably won't do anything bad.
No, but you'll end up with you'll end up with California's top cop. You'll end up with Kamala.
Yeah.
And
basically you're voting for Kamala
fucking
Harris.
Defund Kamala Harris, man.
Like, it's almost ironic because they're like, all these like far left, they're like doing all this like defund the police, we got to do this, and then the DNC, being tone deaf yet again, is like, oh hey, how about this ex-cop to vote for? Because Biden probably can't even tie his shoes anymore. Like, has anybody seen his shoes? Are they Velcro? Because that guy's like losing it.
They're actually Kleenex boxes, and
so it's like it would just be like, what, 1 or 2 months before Kamala took over?
Yeah,
like it would be worse than Bush and Cheney, because back then at least they pretended like Bush was doing stuff, and it wasn't just like
the weird nostalgia people have for Bush now is horrifying.
Dude, everybody just forgot the whole not my president thing and one-term president. Like, it was so bad that they can't even use those slogans anymore. Like, they burned them before Trump. Like, you can't even call Trump one-term president because people are like, oh, you said that for Bush. Yeah. Don't we like Bush now?
No. The center has reformed. And by which I mean, the sort of the Democrat establishment and all of those poor fools who do their bidding. Bush is okay with them now. But it was ever thus. You see this happen again and again. I remember when Nixon was being forgiven, and whoever else. Hey, I'll say this, by the way, about performative white liberal guilt. One thing that a lot of, I think most Americans need to do, we talked about this on the last episode, is they need to confront what happened in the 60s, with the assassinations of all the progressive leaders that actually had a purchase on the electoral mind back then, and by that I mean Kennedy, who was determined to leave Vietnam, and Malcolm X and Martin Luther King in particular, who was talking about redistribution of wealth. He'd moved on from civil rights to human rights. He was calling America the greatest exporter of terrorism on the planet. And then finally, Robert Kennedy, who had an enormous change of heart when he was campaigning for president, and was determined to reveal that his brother had been killed by the national security state. Who were the murderers of all those other people? Because they cut the progressive movement off at its knees. They destroyed the peace movement with those assassinations. And what have you got now? Well, you've got a holiday called Martin Luther King Day, and you've got a lot of people talking about racism down in the States. None of them are confronting the fact that Martin Luther King was killed by his own government. When is that discussion going to be had? And that really speaks to, I think, the surface level, unsophisticated nature of political dialogue right now, and not just in America, but everywhere.
Yeah.
So you ask what's wrong with Trudeau? Well, let's lots. And there's lots wrong with his cabinet. But if you're satisfied with platitudes, then he's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're trafficking in with Biden and Kamala Harris, is platitudes, usually wrapped around identity politics. And in the meantime, class war is being waged on a fucking nuclear scale, and especially during COVID, which has seen a consolidation of corporate wealth and power unlike anything in history. And we're arguing about fucking pronouns.
Are we still arguing about that?
I was reaching for something, but I was reaching for a really killer last line there, and that's
sorry, I stepped on it. You're
no, it was a bad one, but we're arguing about, I don't know, like who
very good point.
Who fucking said a bad word 20 years ago. I don't know, whatever it is, it's all meaningless. It's all fucking meaningless.
Like, we're milkshake ducking everybody when
yes, there you go.
We should just be like paying attention to politics and what the government's doing that isn't to do with UFOs. I like how it's like, what? They said that we have UFOs? It's like, yeah, they have material from a craft that wasn't born on Earth. And you're like, cool. Can you do anything with it yet? And they're like, no. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like,
I could go on about that, but let's go back to your list of idiot things in the last week that we're supposed to complain about.
Do you want to shift gears completely and not talk about politics anymore? Since
I don't mind what we talk about.
Okay.
In the distance, my wife, by the way, is laying paving stones.
Oh,
there's a lot of construction. Yeah, I should be, but I'm not.
You're like, no, I can't lay paving stones. Dale has a podcast that people have to watch.
I got to yell at the internet.
Yeah, there's people who are wrong on the internet. I am busy. Do you want? Okay, so you live on. I always blank on the name. I always want to say Quadra, but it's not. You live on.
It's not hard. It's Salt Spring.
Yeah, Salt Spring.
It's only the suburb of the Gulf Islands. It's like living in East Van these days.
Yeah, and it's full of people from East Van at this point.
It's fucking totally full of people. Yeah, and believe me, the Islanders don't care for it.
Yeah. So, are you guys super like into the COVID whole thing there right now, or?
No, there's. I think there's a lot of. I don't know what you would call them, sort of quasi-libertarian folks here. Maybe a lot of old anti-government hippies.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people who are questioning, the consensus narrative in their own ways, which I got no problem with that, but But I think you would find we've had quite a few guests recently because it's the summer season and people want to get the fuck out of Vancouver. So they come and hang out at my bar. Here, I'm sitting in my personal bar.
What's your bar called? If any of us want to go piss off the Islanders.
First of all, you can only get here with an invite. But for the record, it's called the Whale Inn. Because it's named after, I can't show it to you, I can't move my computer here, but it's named after a giant, enormous portrait of Waylon Jennings that I have hanging on the far wall.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so you come here, you drink local beer, and you listen to country music, and me. You listen to me.
Like, talk shit. Okay, this is a very specific question that will affect if I ever come to the Whale Inn or not. Is it...
Would love to have you.
Shitty emo singer new country that is Justin Bieber with a twang, or is it outlaw classic country like Waylon Jennings?
Yeah, there's no shitty new country.
Okay, I'll come. Yeah. I hate new country so much.
It's horrible.
And being in the trades in a major urban center is where you get hot new country the most. Like people,
I guess you do.
Yeah.
Sorry.
People who work in the trades in Alberta, say, they all listen to metal and rock, and because they don't have to like prove that they're from the country and that they're like a good old boy or something. So they don't listen to like the country radio station. Oh, it's so annoying.
You know, on the list of things that you sent me that we were supposed to talk about, there was something about Nickelback. And I tried to find out what the fuck Nickelback had done that was so outrageous to you.
Oh, they have a new album. I think their new album came out yesterday.
Oh, okay. I don't care. But here's the thing. I do remember many, many years ago. This will amuse you. Yeah. Did I do a bio? I think I did a bio for Nickelback at one point.
Probably. They had albums out when we were at the Nerve in 2005 to 7, I think.
If I didn't do that, I did work with their manager, lawyer, Svengali, 604 Records, honcho, Jonathan Simkin, who's a fairly notorious character in Vancouver. But I like Jonathan, and he gave me a lot of work, and I certainly appreciate that. And I always tried to be honest with him. I mean, I never cared for Nickelback, but but I would say this: I think a lot of the contempt that was piled on that band was kind of dishonest. I mean, they're horrible.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was, like you said, it was people just piling on. Like at some point, it became cool to hate Nickelback. So it was like bacon on the internet, like how everybody was like, I like bacon. I'm one of you guys. I like it too. I eat bacon every day. And
well, it was
like, I also hate Nickelback. I think they're a terrible band. It's like, do you, or are you just saying that because everybody else does?
It was very much, I think, a case of sort of asserting or proving your bacon-loving bona fides.
Yes.
And which I have to say, I think was related very much to a kind of class loathing. I think Nickelback is associated with, I used this word earlier, so I don't know if I can say it now, but like meatheads. Fucking meatheads.
Yeah, you can say meatheads. See, the thing about saying meatheads is everybody who is a meathead knows they're a meathead, and if anybody who doesn't think they're a meathead, okay, let me start that saying over. Everybody who hears the term meathead either knows they're a meathead and they're okay with it, or is in denial of them being in a meathead and doesn't admit that that's them. So you could say meathead, and nobody's going to get offended because nobody's going to be like, hey, I'm a meathead. You can't say that about me.
Sure. That's his maybe. My issue is with a certain sort of educated, middle class, liberal type who would rather pour scorn on the meathead class than actually examine why there's even a meathead class.
That is a very good point.
Anyway, what I really wanted to tell you was that Jonathan Simkin told me something very interesting about Nickelback when I think I was doing a bio.
Did they do a Crossroads deal? Is that how they got so famous?
No, but they did something very, very smart and not necessarily what you would expect from your average meathead.
What was that? Played the same song 100 times?
They definitely did that. But no, what they did is they took new country music and changed it just enough so that it didn't sound like new country, but it essentially has the DNA of new country, and became the biggest rock band in the entire world using that formula. It was diabolically fucking clever, because at the time, the biggest genre, the best-selling genre of music in the world, and this would be what, the late 90s, early 2000s, was new country. So they used listen to the guitar sound on early Nickelback. That's it's just enough Nashville in it. Yeah, just enough fucking Shania Twain in it. Don't get
just enough twang. That's a good point.
They did it. They were very smart in that way.
Yeah, because when they started in, I think, 94, and they were like pretty much a full-on grunge band at that point.
Yeah.
And then like they sounded like Pearl Jam. Yeah, all those other bands like that, and then they kind of morphed into that, like what you're saying, the like rock bastard child of country.
Yes, yeah. I'm not saying that. Their manager told me that, and well, I'm saying it too.
Yeah.
But, anyway,
like one of my contentions with the band was each of their songs did sound like a mathematic equation instead of rock music.
Oh yeah. It was deeply calculated.
Yeah, like there was no, this is my emotions coming through in a song. It was like, okay, we hit the computer, we did some calculations, we think this will be popular, and then we'll sell it. It was like that one time at the Nerve, remember, after Our Lady Peace had kind of gone away, and then you were talking about how Rain Maida was making the drummer do like a double. What was it? It was like when dance rock was really becoming popular, like Block Party and stuff. And this was back in the Nerve days. And you were complaining about how Rain Maida was making his guitarist make the sound of like the Strokes and stuff, so that in a last ditch effort, Our Lady Peace could come back. I'll just do anything to be popular.
I don't remember that at all, because I've managed to effectively, I have no memory of Our Lady Peace. I put them out of my mind forever.
Wait, is Rain Maida now your neighbor on Salt Spring Island?
And hey, he could be. Salt Spring Island is full of 90s Canadian musicians.
Oh my God, are the Doughboys there?
No, but we got at least one Grape of Wrath. We got a. Well, I like Grapes of Wrath.
But, oh my God, could you imagine if instead of like a celebrity tour or a ghost tour, you had a Canadian 90s indie music tour?
You could do that. Yeah, the drummer from 5440, Matt Johnson, he lives here.
Oh, cool.
Raffi lives here. Raffi, you probably remember Raffi. You're young.
Yeah, he came out right when I was at the age to listen to Raffi with Baby
Banana Phone. Yeah, Baby Beluga. I'll say this about Raffi. He doesn't have a great reputation in some ways. But you go back and listen to Banana Phone. The songwriting and the playing on that record, it's top notch. I'm not being funny. It's actually really good. I mean, I have kids. I had to listen to that shit constantly, but I didn't mind it. There's way worse kids music. Raffi.
Oh yeah.
As an artist, I kind of give Raffi the thumbs up.
Yeah.
As a human, I couldn't speak to this.
I've never met him personally, and I don't know the bad reputation which you speak of, but I can only imagine it was just a guy trying really hard to get famous and not having enough time for the common man, which is like with Ellen DeGeneres. It's basically like everybody thinks she's a dickhead, and yeah, she probably is, but that's what you got to be famous. Like, you don't get to be a famous person by just taking time out of your day to talk to every fucking schmo on the street. You got to have a laser focus and get the shit you need to get done.
This is true.
Everybody else.
This is absolutely true. And it's Raffi exists on the outer rings of this machine or this dynamic that you're talking about. But Ellen DeGeneres exists right in the fucking hot center of it. And she will do whatever it takes to maintain her wealth and her prestige. Of course, it's all falling apart for her now because wealth and prestige means nothing when, for instance, I think she works for Time Warner, and Time Warner is cratering. right
Yeah.
now. So they're fucking throwing everybody overboard, and it's a great spectacle. Now I want to say this, and this is going to give a synthesis, because there were a number of things that we were supposed to talk about, including Maoris.
Well, what we've done since you're on the last time was we do this thing where we do rapid fire, where everything that we didn't get to catch up to and talk about in the last 10 minutes, we give like a little short point on it.
All right.
Just because
is that what we're doing now? I
was bitter because I was doing research and finding stuff to talk about and then never talking about it. So I felt like I was wasting my time. And since
were you though, or were you just well, I mean, what's wrong with learning?
It's homework.
Okay.
If I wanted to learn, I would have learned back when it was the time, and I'd be rich now. How's that?
No, you wouldn't be rich. Because you know why?
You're not going to do nice.
You're not going to do what it takes to join the club.
No, I'm not. No. And I have a giant mouth. Like, as soon as you're like, there's this secret thing that we are all doing, and you can be part of the cool rich guy club, whatever we do. But like, as soon as they're like, here's the owl god you have to like sing in front of, and then we like throw an effigy into it. Like, what's that oil at like Bohemian
Moloch?
Grove? Yeah. They're like right in front of Moloch. And I would leave there and I would drive straight to the nearest bar, and I would tell everybody that there's these crazy assholes dancing and worshiping an owl god, and it's all the rich people. And then they'd be like, Dale, you can't be in our club anymore.
Yeah, that's pretty much the shape and size of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the only reason I'm not famous is because Oprah prays to an owl god. I don't know if she still does.
Of course she does. She prayed to Harvey Weinstein.
Wait, she prayed or was pray?
No, I don't think he was interested in her.
No.
But sexually, if that's what you mean. However, I think she did bask in his influence, because they all do. I mean, that's just standard operational procedure.
It's like, what? I could be rich and famous, and all I have to do is have questionable morals and not stand up for what's right and human. Yeah, I'll do that.
Oh yeah, no. If you're prepared to throw anybody, including trafficked children, under the bus, you're going to do okay. Yeah,
like there's a reason. Like, there's not enough pie to make everybody rich and famous, so they have to like weed out all the normal people and only have evil people in there, I guess.
I think, yeah. I in a nutshell.
I don't know. I like to make up reasons why I'm not rich, and it usually centers around me being a nice guy and not being evil, and that's the reason I'm not rich.
Oh, Dale,
ambition.
Dale, in your delightfully childlike way, I think that you're completely right about that.
Yeah.
I just want to mention this.
Yeah.
Listen to this, because you brought up Ellen. But in June, in the midst of my COVID no job depression, I spent some time putting together a little music video for the band I play with.
What band do you play with?
I'm embarrassed to say the name. Because it's goofy, but it's all one
like,
word.
Is it like the Penis Touchers or something? Why are you embarrassed?
No, who the fuck would call their band the Penis
Why would you
Touchers?
Tell me you got to tell us the band name now.
Of course I'm going to tell you. If you shut up for a minute. No, it's going to. We're called Salt Spring Underground, but it's all one word. And it's kind of a joke to us, because
what's embarrassing about that?
Well, it's not embarrassing. Who said it was embarrassing?
You said I don't want to tell you it's embarrassing.
It's like it's like a joke that's funny to four of us.
Hey, those are the best jokes.
Maybe. Yeah. We finished a record just before COVID happened.
Yeah.
And we were all excited about putting it out and going to Vancouver and playing it and stuff. Well, we couldn't do it because COVID happened. So instead, we're just sort of sitting on it. And in the meantime, I put together a video for one of the songs on that record, which is called Bring Me One of Everything. And I'm sure that, as indicated by the title, it's about decadence and profligacy and the kind
I like decadence.
No, well, I'm talking about decadence on the scale that you're not permitted to enjoy because you're a good person.
Oh.
It's about the worst element in society.
Mm.
And I was asked. I did it without even telling the band. I put together this little video, and it
Mhm.
was just me grabbing clips of all of the things that just kind of were pissing me off in the moment and putting them all together. And if you go and look at it now, and you can look it up, it's called "Bring Me One of Everything" by Salt Spring Underground. It's on the YouTube. It's all
On the
Salt Spring
YouTube.
Underground. Yeah, all one word. Salt Spring
Dude, you're
Underground.
gonna get like 3 hits from this.
I hope so. Uh, and anyway, there's a lot of Ellen in there, and
That's funny.
I would like to maybe give a little shout out to my own precognitive abilities, because the video is sort of about the collapse of the empire,
Hmm.
and especially those people who work in the entertainment industry, and I would include the Clintons and the Obamas in that
Yeah.
cohort. I really just think that they're basically they're just late night entertainers to me,
Yeah.
and they're all in there along with Ellen. I got this. Are you still there? All right.
Yeah, I'm
I
here.
got this. I got this real boner for Ellen while I was making it, and then what? Fucking 6 weeks later, boom, she's finished, man.
Yeah. That like came out of nowhere.
So you know who else is in there that I hope will be finished? You
Yeah.
got your Tom Hanks, you got
Mhm.
your Steven Spielberg, you got your Bill Gates, you got your Grimes, you got your fucking that guy you like, Elon Musk.
Yeah, I think Elon Musk is gonna drag Grimes with her because he keeps
Yes.
he keeps saying like weird, like hateful shit on like the Twitter, and then like there's one time when Grimes was like, "Yo, we got to take your phone away. You can't just say stuff like this."
He's clinically insane, and she is clinically attracted to power. And they're both gonna go to hell.
You know what, I'm just gonna say I haven't really liked Grimes since her first album, and I only think 2 of those songs were slappers anyway. So,
Right.
like, if you're judging a musician's self-worth by their music, I'd say she's like a 2. But those 2 songs, they're pretty good.
Like, that's fair enough. You know, like the whole thing. You know, a broken clock, you know, is right twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
There's that.
That's true.
You know who was consistently right for many, many years on end was Waylon Jennings.
Yes, he was. Especially his last album, which was experimental. That song, "This Outlaw Shit Is Out of Hand." Is that what it was called?
Yeah, "This Outlaw Shit Has Done Got Out of Hand," I think was actually the title.
Yeah, that's a good song.
It is a really good song.
And it's weird because it's like Sturgill Simpson is kind of the only person I could think of who plays like this weird, like psychedelic old style country music, which I didn't even know was a thing.
No, and then he adds DMT into the mix, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, I didn't like Waylon's Jungle record much.
I haven't listened to that.
So so there's a guy in my band, Salt Spring Underground, Chris Arnett, brilliant man. He was he formed I guess you could call it the very first punk band in Vancouver.
Wait, so when I make this tour of Salt Spring Island and I go to view all the 90s musicians, like Canadian indie musicians, am I just coming to your house?
No, we don't invite those people.
What band were you at? You were a touring drummer for what band?
I was in a band called John Ford, but much more recently I've been Rich Hope's drummer for a very long time.
That's the one I was thinking. Yeah. And he's pretty well known. So
Rich is phenomenally talented, very much beloved by the people who know about him. He's a critic's darling, but I think Rich has never really had the success he deserves in Vancouver or elsewhere.
Hey, I feel that about myself too.
Yeah, I feel that way about you.
He's probably didn't get it either because he's also a nice guy.
He's a really nice guy.
Yeah,
he's a really nice guy, and he doesn't play dirty.
And I feel like that will very much hurt you in the music industry.
It really will.
Maybe not now, where it's almost like a organic, like with Spotify and everything, where there's no more gatekeepers like holding music back from the fans. I feel like now it's basically just like luck, like enough people stumble upon your music and then you get famous. It's not where like back in the day, you used to have to be like nice to certain people, otherwise nobody would hear your music on the radio.
Yes, nice to certain people.
Hey, doing nice things to those certain people, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a part of me that really that agrees with you. The democratization of art, because we live in this digital realm where corporations, certainly in entertainment corporations at least, appear to be losing their purchase on the public pocketbook. Yes, I sort of agree with you, and that's really nice. However, what it leads to is an incredible glut of product out there, and a difficulty for the quote unquote consumer to know what to listen to, even, you know.
Yeah.
And so that is of course made even worse by the fact that you can't fucking play anywhere because there's a virus.
I think you're gonna see, like, maybe pretty soon, I'd say you're gonna see like the rise of the internet DJ, where it's basically someone who finds the music and goes through the glut and tells you what's worthwhile to listen to. Like,
the way the DJs used to do.
Yeah.
That's odd you would say that. I was just listening. Who was I listening to? Somebody was talking about that very recently, about the influence of the DJ back in the 50s and 60s and the 70s. And the DJ was an arbiter of taste. And in a lot of cases was really good. And in other cases wasn't so much. But these days, every DJ, especially radio, every radio DJ is shit. They're shit.
Oh yeah.
They talk shit. They're the worst people. You would never invite them to your private bar, and they definitely have appalling taste in music. And even if but you don't even know that because they're all listening to playlists that are constructed for them by somebody else, right?
Yeah, it's basically like they have national playlists and then they just talk in between the songs or whatever.
Yeah, they talk shit between the songs.
Like, what I'm talking about would, I guess, be like what Pitchfork was at the height of... Is Pitchfork even around anymore?
I don't fucking know.
Like, basically, you're like, I feel like you're going to see the rise of someone who is online and basically all they're going to do is be like, this is what you should listen to. Like, there was this thing in like 2000 and like, I think it was like from 2009 to 13, and it was called SAG's list. And it was basically like all the indie music from Europe. And I don't know who SAG was, but they would put together this list, and every month there would be like 30 songs on it from up and coming indie bands. And they were all good. And you'd listen to that instead of like going out and listening to like the demos and stuff.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. I thought SAG was an actors union, but okay.
Yeah, there's the Screen Actors Guild, but it definitely was not that.
Are we going to do these like fucking 10-minute hits or what?
What? Dude, after you're done with me, you're going to have to go lay paving stone. So what's your hurry?
No. No. I'm taking my son down to the beach. We're going for a swim.
Oh, okay, that's better. That's actually worthwhile. We can hurry it up. We can start the rapid fire right now because I think once you start.
What have we done? How long have we done this for? How long is this show? Oh, really? Is that
the show? Is how long I say it is, Adrian.
Oh, okay.
No, usually we try to do about an hour, but like we could, because it's just like, I don't know. I run out of stuff to talk about.
Dude, on my podcast, I'm always like fighting to make it shorter.
Yeah.
We'll talk for an hour and a half, and I'm like, no, let's get it down to 35 minutes. People got shit to do, you know.
No,
not least of which being like all the other podcasts they have to listen to.
Well, it's like I see it. Like if people are going through the effort of listening to your podcast, they're going to listen to it. Like for me, I find that I don't even want to turn on a podcast unless it's at least an hour, because I'll listen to it while I'm working. And I don't want to fucking reach into my pocket and fiddle around with all these like 30-minute podcasts and be like 20-minute quick hits where everything's compressed. Like, I feel like arbitrarily making them shorter actually affects like the style of the conversation. But I'm a Joe Rogan fan, and his is 3 hours.
Right.
And like, that's another thing he did, was he basically got like consumer media to be okay with taking your time and having like conversational tone.
Yeah, and I think that's really great, and I think it's really important. When I was a younger man, long time ago, back in the late 80s, living in England, Channel 4, which was...
How come you don't have an accent?
Well, it's a long story.
Hey, we got time. Anyway, sorry. Just keep going with your Channel 4 story.
Channel 4 was the fourth channel.
Really?
Yeah.
You're talking about BBC 4, right?
No. Oh, no.
Oh.
Oh, look out. Oh, here's a little guest appearance by my dog, Augie.
Hi, Augie.
Hey.
Oh, he can't hear me because you're wearing headphones.
No, he wouldn't
I
listen
basically
anyway.
just screamed in your ear at your dog.
I'm going to throw some peanuts over there so he leaves me alone.
Yeah.
Off you go, buddy. Yeah, Channel 4. No, there were your BBC 1, your BBC 2, your ITV, which was the independent television station.
Okay.
And after a long time, Channel 4, which was also independent. And that's all you had. You just had 4 channels. And Channel 4 used to have this amazing show. It's called After Dark. And it would start at midnight. And you would get, a bunch of people together. Very, very interesting people. Like, I don't know, fucking Prince Edward, Richard Dawkins, Vladimir Lenin, and like Glenda Jackson and Oliver Reed. They'd put them all in a room and tell them to like just yak and it would go on till fucking 5 in the morning. And they were just sitting around a table in a darkened studio, and it was magnificent. It was the second best thing on British television at the time, after live snooker, which was really great. And I could watch that for hours on end. Because I
haven't played snooker in years.
Oh.
It's funny because snooker's like so big in like Britain, but over here everybody's like, what is that, like regular pool? You're like, well, no, regular
pool. I think it had a little bit of a it had some cachet in the 80s because of Cliff Thurburn, who was a Canadian snooker champion.
Oh, okay.
But I think he was better known in the UK than he was in Canada. But he had, he had a sort of he had some fame over here. But watching snooker late at night was just wonderful, especially if you were, just baked to the bejesus belt.
I feel like watching snooker now, super baked, would still be interesting.
Yeah, it's never lost its appeal for me. I have 10 billion channels, but none of them are showing fucking snooker.
Okay.
And that's how much entertainment has declined in the last 30 years.
I'm sorry to derail the snooker talk, but let's get into the rapid fire, because you want to go swimming with your child.
I really do.
Be a good father.
Yeah.
And I don't want to stand in the way of that.
Okay.
So first off, like you alluded to, the Maori thing was a Canadian beer named a Canadian brewing company had a beer named after the Maori word for feather, which they were then told by a Maori gentleman is actually slang term for pubic hair.
Yeah. So I don't give a shit about this story, but I will say this: never fuck with the Maori.
No, don't.
And I can say this from personal experience, because in my band did I tell you I have a band, Salt Spring Underground?
Oh, no, this is the first I've heard of it.
Yeah. Well, I do, and the guy that formed the band with me is a Maori gentleman.
Is it The Rock?
No, his name's Chris Arnett.
Oh,
and he formed the very first punk band in Vancouver.
Which band?
They were called the Furies.
Okay.
They did the first ever punk rock show in Vancouver. I can't remember the venue, but it was the Furies and one other band, or maybe 2 other
The
bands.
Furies is a good name for a band.
Yeah, it's a very, very good name for a band. And
I mean, I guess if you're the first punk band, there's a lot of names to choose from.
Oh, an infinite number of names to choose from.
Yeah. Literally all of them.
The Weinsteins.
There you go.
The Degenerates. I'll tell you very quickly.
Yeah.
Many years ago, because he's been living on Salt Spring since the 80s. He left Vancouver having formed punk.
Mm-hmm.
He moved to Salt Spring to become a sort of a farmer. And he's Maori. And his brother-in-law, weirdly enough, is John Yoo, who was the architect of the George W. Bush administration's torture policy.
Torture cult?
the policy, the torture policy. He argued for the
Oh,
John
okay.
Yoo, he was
Yeah.
assistant attorney general, argued
Okay.
for the legality of torture in U.S. court and won on behalf of that administration. And then they started torturing people. That's his brother-in-law. It's kind of fucking
crazy.
I know.
Like that's two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. Because Chris, I think, I don't want to speak for him, but my feeling is he does not approve
Of governmental U.S. torture. Yeah, I hope so.
I don't think he endorses it.
Yeah, that would put his punk cred into question.
Well, and just his cred as a sort of a decent human being.
Yeah, that too.
He found himself, oddly enough, in a situation. I don't want to speak out of school here. Mm-hmm. He found himself many years ago in a situation where a certain children's entertainer, who may or may not live on Salt Spring Island, had brought to the island a woman who was claiming to be the descendants of a people who preceded the Maori in New Zealand. Well, now she's white, I guess, and that's a pretty indefensible position to take. And he went to this thing where she sort of held the audience in a kind of a sort of a rapture of new age horse shit.
Yeah.
And he called her out on it. And there's the tapes exist of this thing. And I guess anyway, what he was telling me this just last night, and it made me think, fuck, one thing I will never do, having heard this, is go out on a global tour pretending to be like a fake Maori, because
they don't like that.
I suspect she came all the way from New Zealand to what would be like literally the furthest place away on earth.
Yeah, I bet she was not thinking she would run into a Maori gentleman on Salt Spring Island.
No, bad call. Bad call. So
that
never fuck with a Maori.
Okay. So moving on, nobody really cares if they miss. Like I'd say keep the name of the beer, because if it says pubic hair, that's funny. And I think
what's wrong with that?
I think in a way, people who drink craft beer and make that part of their personality would find that endearing, and they would drink even more of the beer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm not. Okay. I'm so disengaged from this thing. I'm just going to agree with you. Yeah.
Before, when I mentioned I was talking to you about COVID on Salt Spring Island, I was actually trying to lead into the whole Sturgis stomp thing, but we got tangented and left it on the table and moved on. But what I wanted to say was, so Sturgis is it called Sturgis Stomp anymore? Is that a thing?
I don't even know. You sending me the link is the first time I've ever heard of this event.
Okay. Well, I've heard of it. So Sturgis is a town in South Dakota where it's basically like the North American biker meetup, where every summer up to 500,000 people who ride motorbikes of questionable legality background or not go there, and they hang out in this town. And the town hates it and loves it, because on one hand, you have 500,000 fucking bikers, and you can only imagine the kind of trouble that comes with that. But on the other hand, the area makes like $85 million a year just because of it. Right. So they were supposed to cancel it with COVID, but then like a month ago, they're like, we're not fucking leaving money on the table. Mm-hmm. And we believe in, like, they pulled that whole we believe in freedom shit, where they're like,
freedom and or death.
Yeah, we believe in freedom. You could do what you want. We just want your money, because this town will go broke if you don't have it. So they basically, it's like hundreds of thousands of bikers in this town, and nobody's doing COVID, because it's the type of people who think that COVID is a hoax, or they believe that their rights supersede the point of them wearing masks and stuff. So basically they just feel like their rights can be expressed by not following COVID protocols. And so this is happening, right? I think it's still happening currently. And the big, like, yeah, so whatever, like that's happening. Like, it's not really a social commentary thing. Like, it's stupid. Everybody can agree. They're going to like basically take COVID and I would say take it to the corners of the U.S. that don't have it, but every corner of the U.S. has COVID right now. And
yeah,
but the thing where we're talking about the outrage is Budweiser and Coke are sponsoring this event, which, yeah, whatever, they're a giant corporation and they want money, and yeah, they have the right. Like, if you like Budweiser or Coke, you're going to drink it. But my problem is they're also doing this thing where, like, we believe in, like, when they're advertising to people on the opposite side, they're like, yeah, we believe in COVID restrictions and all this stuff,
right.
like consume properly. And they're basically just being hypocrites trying to make more money.
Yeah. Are we? So wait. Are we supposed to express surprise? I mean, they're.
I don't know. I just wanted to point out that it's something that's happening, and that's.
Well, one of the really delightful things about COVID and just 2020 in general is that it's really, the mask has dropped off of so many things. I mean,
get it, mask. I got it. I see what you did there.
No, that wasn't deliberate, but yeah,
unintentional dad pun.
I'm so fucking brilliant. No, let me put it another way. No,
yeah.
I'm not gonna put it that way. But yeah, like the hypocrisy has been laid bare in so many different ways. So of course, 'twas ever thus. Any corporation on the level of Budweiser or Coca-Cola is going to do do the PR efforts that are required in the moment. So they're always going to say the right thing. I mean, I remember Kylie Jenner handing a Pepsi to a riot cop or what the fucking ever. Like that's what they do. But no, I mean they're the handmaidens of corporate global fascism. They always will be. And don't drink that shit, people. For fuck's sakes, get wise. Stop it. Bleed them dry. Just starve them of oxygen. If this is the thing, Dale, that finally gets you to stop drinking Coke and Budweiser, great.
I think my gout had something to do with that.
You've got gout, like
yeah. Don't you remember me bringing it up on every single podcast?
No,
I basically just bring it up because I'm so bitter that I can't eat garbage anymore.
So what is that? Gout is like little crystals of salt inside your joints? Or
so it's like,
just make that up?
No, it is crystals, but it's the fuck are they? It's basically like pea crystals get inside your bloodstream.
Your urine crystals?
It's like linked with pee. It's a horrible disease. Basically, it's like your body makes like an acid. What is it? Why can't I think of anything right now? Anyways, so basically your body makes these makes acid or whatever to break down like proteins and certain types of food. And then if you eat too much of that food, like it's called the King's disease because it basically comes from eating too much rich food like steak, red meat, fish, wine, and like unhealthy fats and stuff. So your body makes too much of that chemical or whatever, that acid, and then it just pools in your body and turns into crystals. And then what's called a gout flare up is when you eat like a steak, your body's like, oh fuck, we better make these crystals or these chemicals to get rid of the steak, not knowing that there's still so much in your body already from the last time you ate it, that it crystallizes on your joints. And when you have a reaction to it, it feels like arthritis.
I see.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that you have this.
It's my fault for eating like a dickhead for so many years. Like, it was never like someone's like, "Oh, you have this," and I was like, "How did I get that?"
It's not your fault for eating like a dickhead. However, it is the fault of a system and infrastructure that pushes that shit at you constantly. You were grown up, or rather, you grew up being told to drink Coke and
No.
Budweiser and to eat. Well, I mean,
I actually grew up on a farm where I was told that all that stuff is super bad for you and not to do it. And then it backfired. And then when I was finally out of the house, I was like, I'm going to eat all the junk I can.
Oh, that was your rebellion.
Yeah.
Your rebellion was getting gout.
Yeah. That's how.
I'm sorry.
How you like that, Dad? I got gout by eating garbage. That'll show you.
It's really harsh that like your entire podcast is just riven with ill health because poor old Derek can't get out of bed.
Oh yeah. Well, that's more of a like he tried to lift weights. I think what initially happened was he was lifting weights and he slipped a disc, and then he didn't realize how bad it was, and he kept like running and working out and doing stuff, and then it just kind of got worse, and then. What happened was a protrusion left one of his slip discs and like pushed against his sciatic nerve, and that's what sciatica is.
Right.
So it basically sends horrific shooting pains up and down your legs.
Yes, I got sciatica way back in the day from sitting on my wallet in a van on tour.
Really?
Yeah, and it's awful. So I have a lot of sympathy for Derek. I have very little sympathy for you, but I have a lot of sympathy for Derek.
Basically, my health impediment is like, yo, fucko, the party's over. Eat like a human, and I'm like, all right.
So, are you eating like a human?
Yes, I am.
Good for you.
It's basically,
is it
if I don't eat properly, it feels like I sprained my ankle. Yeah.
Henry VIII, right? Henry VIII. In my life, gout was always associated with Henry VIII.
Yeah, because he
was a king.
Yeah, I didn't behead anybody though. I did not kill my wives for not giving me a son.
Yeah, well, there's still time.
Yeah, I haven't had any wives either. So think of that what you will. Next on the rapid fire is Party Bus.
They're not very fucking rapid, these rapid fires.
No, they're not.
Party Bus, again. Who cares? Fuck these people.
Like, my whole thing was like, people were like, oh, Party Bus got turned away from a downtown bar in Vancouver and they weren't allowed to go in. It's like, who the fuck is running a party bus? COVID is still a thing.
So, like, your Sturgis thing, Smashmouth was on stage, and I guess they made the headlines again.
And everybody made the joke that he's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
Is that a joke?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he's dumb for playing at Sturgis during COVID.
Well, yeah, but the Smashmouth is one of those weird institutions that just seems to persist no matter what.
Yeah, I know. It's
with the support of an industry that we think doesn't exist anymore, but apparently does. In any case, they were never.
Wait, what?
Well, Smashmouth is like. What I mean is, Smashmouth is always there. Smashmouth will continue to have hit singles into the future. They'll always be on movie soundtracks for as long as movies, or for as long as Hollywood exists. Just because they're sort of, maybe they're in the club. These things are very, you start seeing the outlines, the contours of this weird system that makes no sense. And Smashmouth is a great example of this, as is Our Lady Peace, a Canadian band that nobody liked. Nobody liked them. They were objectively terrible, and yet they had the support of the Canadian music industry for quite a long time. Yeah. And had a certain sort of cachet and a certain amount of sort of insider power. That made no sense because they were fucking shit. They were like they were true shit. And they were. And you see this again and again and again. Smashmouth, true shit.
The thing I don't get about Smashmouth is they are basically most well known for having this theme song to Shrek, which is a cover of a monkey song, and now they're playing it like a fucking biker thing. Like, what is that?
If you really aren't interested in life, and you just sort of take what's thrown at you, then Smashmouth makes sense.
Yeah.
You're sitting there on your hog thinking, fucking hell, hey, Smashmouth, great, and they're doing their Horrible Monkeys covers. I think they do ska versions of things. I remember I was very upset with them at one point decades ago.
They ruined the Monkeys for you, did they?
Well, they did kind of ruin. They didn't. They'll never. No one will ever ruin the Monkeys. We'll take the Monkeys to ruin the Monkeys for me.
Yeah.
And they haven't done that yet. but they did. I remember they did a cover version of "Can't Get Enough of You, Baby," which was a fucking fantastic song by a fantastic band called Question Mark and the Mysterians, who also had a huge hit in the 60s with a song called 96 Tears. And Question Mark and the Mysterians never made a goddamn penny out of anything. Smashmouth, of course, are fucking whining and dining on the types of food that give you gout.
Yeah, they are.
And not only that, they're probably having, I'm not going to say that because I don't want to get sick.
If you could diagnose someone as having gout by looking at them,
Smashmouth,
the lead singer of Smashmouth, has gout.
And the entire organization that supports Smashmouth.
Mm-hmm.
There's an epidemic of gout in there. And also, very possibly, because I want to distinguish you from these people, very possibly they are rapists.
Could be. They could be involved in this whole Epstein, like, child trafficking thing.
You said it.
Yeah. I mean, if you told me that Smashmouth went to Fuck Island with Epstein and Bill Clinton,
you wouldn't be surprised at all.
I would not be surprised. If you told me that the singer
house
Smashmouth sat next to Bill Clinton 26 times he went to Fuck Island where he hung out with his friend Epstein, I would not be surprised.
You really wouldn't, right?
If you told me that the singer of Smashmouth is sat beside the guy who's supposed to speak at the DNC convention every single time he went back to Epstein's Island, I would not be surprised.
If you were looking at the manifests for the Lolita Express and you saw Epstein, you saw Clinton, Trump, Gates, Steven Pinker, maybe a Christopher Hitchens or two, singer from Smashmouth, no, you wouldn't bat a fucking eye.
No, I would be like, yeah, that place, like, Smashmouth was pretty big in the late 90s. I guess they were famous enough to go to Fuck Island.
They have an inexplicable amount of success and an inexplicable amount of access in the industry and an inexplicable amount of support. It makes no sense on any level. They keep showing up on DreamWorks soundtracks. What the fuck is that all about? I told you, I told you to watch that Salt Spring Underground video. You'll see.
Yeah, it's funny how
we've said before. I turned out I was right years ago about all these things that you made fun of, and now they're all coming true. And this little video that I made for Salt Spring Underground is my latest act of prediction.
I have a very important question for you. Is the singer of Smashmouth QAnon? Is that why he knows all this stuff? Because he has access to all these underground pedophile rings and cults.
No, but he's probably donated money to keep QAnon running, because QAnon is a fantastic disinformation program, and it's making a lot of people real stupid.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, I don't think we're going to cover, I think Smashmouth is the key to everything.
I wouldn't fucking argue.
Because if you say, how does Smashmouth, how are they still around? Who's supporting them? Why do they show up in, DreamWorks pictures at, fucking biker things? If we figure that out, it'll probably be the key to everything.
They're in the club, my friend. They're in the club just like, how do you say it? Beyonce? Whatever. All of those people are, Elon Musk, they're all in the club. But you can't say it because you bring up QAnon because then you look like a fucking crazy right-wing conspiracy theorist, which I'm not. What I am, though, is a man with his eyes open somewhat. And and I'm willing to go out on a limb and say that classically, conventionally, historically, although we have some fun at its expense, conspiracy theory often contains a grain of truth. And
yes, it does.
That's always been the plan with disinformation: is 90% truth, 10% horseshit, but it's the 10% of the horseshit that really attracts people and discredits everything. I said that in the last episode. I gotta take my kids swimming, dude.
Yeah, I mean, let's end on Smashmouth being the key to every conspiracy ever.
Okay.
Because that's a great point to end.
I think
Smashmouth comes
out, some investigation.
If this podcast isn't back next week, Smashmouth got me. They shut us down.
Keep your eyes peeled, listeners, viewers. That chick that yelled at me last time.
Yeah. Maybe she's a singer for Smashmouth. All right. Until next time, stay angry.
I will. It's been a pleasure.